looking a little bit of the gold action that we saw over the last week, and again, just sort of have a bit of a sort of prediction of sort of where we sort of think price may be moving in the short term. So, I mean, the week obviously sort of finished on quite a sort of sour note for the gold bulls, and I know some people are pretty sort of keen on getting on the short side of this, and definitely you can see it's this channel that it's really kind of been respecting for the last couple of weeks or so, so back from September. So the whole month of October, it's been setting up this sort of upward channel. It's finally sort of given up the bottom side of this, and in quite sort of spectacular fashion. Like, that's not a sort of short drop. I mean, we're looking from, what, 93 down to 70, 71 or so. So, I mean, $20 drop off. And this is on a 4-hour candle, so $20 drop in 4 hours is quite significant, and you can sort of really see that it's attempted to sort of hold this a couple of times, even this last little sort of hammer candle here, just before it got to it, and once it sort of gave up here, this sort of around this 90 zone, you sort of really saw this sort of sharp drop off in that, and particularly last night, just with New York sort of when I think that's when COMEX opens, you saw some really sort of wild sort of price action of, you know, sort of within sort of, I think it was, if we can have a look on the 15-minute candles, yeah, it's just around this point here, say at 11:30 local Melbourne sort of time. It really had this really wild sort of bit of action sort of coming in, quite obviously in quite a sort of steep sort of downward sort of direction, and that sort of coming into that. So certainly, yeah, it looks like the bears are back in control, at least for the short term, with gold. But if we flip back onto the 4-hour, you can sort of start to get a bit of a picture about sort of where it's going and what it's actually doing. So, I mean, overall picture is this big, long sort of downward trending sort of channel, and this is sort of taking us back to June, so it's been quite a few months in that sort of setting up this. It's still pushing towards the top side of this, so again, look, yes, you could have got some shorts off from the top, but you know, it really comes down to your trading style of where you want to do it. I'm a little bit more conservative nowadays, particularly with the shorts, so I'd rather sort of wait for a confirmation that we are actually sort of resuming this sort of more downward direction. Whereas it's sort of like, you know, I might miss a couple of dollars in these moves here, but what I get in exchange for that is more of a confirmation that we are in actually a downward trending channel, and not just sort of a pullback in an overall upward move. Because really, they're the ones where if you're trading against the grain, you're going to get snapped out. You know what I mean? If the overall thing is moving upwards, and I mean, yes, this was a sharp drop off, and if you look at this here, I've sort of marked this one up, so it is looking like a little bit of a corrective sort of 4-hour, when it sort of failed to hold over 1800, which I've spoken about a couple of times being really a strong sort of, you know, point, sort of line in the sand, and more particularly 1810 seems to be the sort of token price to be able to sort of close above for the bulls there. So once it sort of had 1, 2, 3 and 3 fails, and each one coming in just a little bit lower, I mean, obviously you had this sort of spike up here, but the bodies of the candles coming in a little bit lower each time, you're starting to see that the bulls are just wearing out a little bit. So yes, it is coming back, and it's a corrective of this sort of upward channel, and it's given up the bottom side of the channel for now. But this is not to sort of say that we can't sort of get something that's overall sort of going up, coming back, correcting, and then moving forward. So that's base case for the bulls. And as I sort of say with these things, it's not necessarily sort of throwing 100% of your faith into one camp over the other. It's mainly just sort of charting out, seeing what the price action's doing, predicting as best you can that, okay, I'm going to get long on this or I'm going to get short on this. I'm waiting for confirmations for the shorts. For me, I want to see price come back down here. I want to see it break these lows and this sort of band that, as we spoke about 2 weeks ago, I think it was in episode 2, that this was really, you know, I mean, it was the top end of these this sort of consolidation box. It was support for a long time. Oh, sorry, it was resistance for a long time. Came back, it held perfectly as support, and thus the price launched off from there. So as price comes back down here, whether it sort of comes down quickly or comes down in a little bit, I'd expect this zone to hold up again. Because this is, I mean, this is the back test of this. this is now first test to go through here. So if you're looking for the downside, you're going to see it come up along here. It's going to come up, it's going to get a bounce off here, and then you're going to see another attack on this zone, like I've said here, and then you can either get it sort of ranging along down here, or you're going to see a breakthrough, and this is where I'll start to look short. I'll wait for this breakthrough, wait for it to come back up here, test the underside of this, should be support. So then for, of course, support being resistance, same points, just depends which sort of angle you're coming in at it. Look for it to sort of see a rejection from this 1763 line and then moving down. And this is the zone, personally, where I'll start to look to get short. Because to me, at the moment, I'm still, overall, my bias is still bullish. The fact that we're sort of coming out of the higher time frame channel that's been respected for a long, these are just sort of little waves in between, and then if you zoom down, you've got little waves in between those even. But overall, the higher time frame moves are the ones that are really dictating the actual direction. And as it is at the moment, yes, it's on the downside, but it's pushing up, so it's really testing to change this overall narrative that we've been seeing for the last sort of 3 months and really sort of push out the top side. So, you know what, I'm still planning, looking for potential longs. I'm obviously not jumping in straight away. I'm going to wait for I'll sort of zero in on a couple of the lower time frame views and that, and then sort of see if I can find some good entries for some long positions. But at the moment, I'm cautious, so I'm going to be sitting out on the sidelines till I sort of see a bit more of a confirmation, possibly sort of something that can come up and break this channel here, this line here, because we've seen it respected a number of times. So if we if we delete this one, just sort of clean it up a little bit and then drag this down here, you can start to see that maybe this is a bit of the sort of corrective channel that we're sort of seeing come through here. So maybe if we get up along the tops, see some sort of bounce from the bottom side here, come up the top here, and then if we want to sort of look at it, maybe this could be a little bit of a sort of idea of where price action might be sort of moving at the moment, which, as I said, sort of if we sort of move this across, it kind of coincides with that idea and the narrative that you'd be getting a bounce off the top side here. I certainly don't think we're going to be seeing a complete meltdown. I mean, anything's possible. We could see this just open up next week and it could just be a waterfall and it could just go and sort of come right through. But given sort of normal week-to-week price action, I would tend to sort of think that because, we've got a couple of big things coming up this week. I think we've got the FOMC, we've got BOE coming out. These things can affect this overall sort of risk sentiment in the market, which in turn will then affect gold prices. So maybe if you see a couple of these things coming out that are sort of maybe sort of more favouring sort of dollar bulls, you might see a little bit of a sell-off in gold, and you could get these faster moves down. But at the moment, this is sort of what I'm sort of planning for, and I'm expecting to see a little bit of a push up sort of early through the week, and then sort of maybe coming back down through this sort of corrective pattern down here. But I don't think I'll be looking really to sort of get long on any of these gold positions, except for maybe some intra-session sort of scalping, till we get a break of this corrective channel here, because this would go along, as I said, if you're getting your bounce here, and then if it can go up, down, and then sort of break up here, well, that comes up with our overall pullback in an upward direction move. So I think a break of this falling resistance, wherever that comes, is when I'll start to look to get long on a couple of positions. So if we can get a breakthrough, so to come up here, retest of the top side of this for some support, which may sort of coincide with this band if we sort of extended that along, and then look to get long on a move something like this. But I don't think at the moment there's really a confirmation either way. It's given up this upward short-term upward channel, so it's not a guarantee till it passes these swing low positions over here at 1763 that this is guaranteed to be in a corrective change. Sorry, not a corrective, but an actual change of trend. Once we get that lower low on the higher time frames, okay, then we can go, we're in a downward trend again, so we'll be looking for sells. But at the moment, it's still in this interim. It's on, because it's given up this channel, it's on caution. Like, sort of, this is the first indicator that we're seeing something's not right in terms of looking for longs and for the bulls. Because if this was really sort of going strong, then you would have seen a bounce from here and you would have seen continuation up here. We didn't see that. It came through, obviously. So because this is the sort of state of play at the moment, what we're sort of looking for is particularly that this could still just be a corrective pattern for an overall sort of longer move. But the thing is, you're on notice here, because this is technically given a lower low on this time frame here. But so this can still, certainly you can be looking for some sells along this way, but it's not guaranteed that this is going to be a long-term hold to the downside till we pass this 1763. 1763 for me is the confirmation that this has been a failed move. And again, going back from last week, if we zoom it out a little bit more, and maybe a bit easier if we see on the daily time frame, that there is this sort of overall sideways channel going here. And so a fail actually, and this is the point that I was sort of making, you wait for the confirmations, because a fail here means that this whole move out the top here was just either, whatever you want to call it, a fake out, if you want to say, you know, it was just a failed attempt of a breakout. Either way, it's got quite significant ramifications if this fails, because that means that we're still validating this overall downward channel, and then we're looking at price targets down here in the low 1700s, particularly underneath 1763. I think you're going to see a mass exodus of bulls and longs, and I wouldn't be surprised. And you know, we talk about stop hunts and that, but I wouldn't be surprised if your new stop hunt zone is going to be down here, because I think there's a lot of people who've gone, look, we've tried, and you've got to respect the bears in this instance, that, you know, the bulls have come strong, and as I said, they've been moving the whole month of October. Every time they've bought these dips. This case here could be another case of that, and could just be a slowdown, as I keep saying. It sort of could be a corrective, still moving up over here. But you've got to respect the fact that it tried to go through 1800, not just once or twice, but multiple times. It pushed up there. It was quite heavy rejections. If you look at these sort of long wicks on the top here, these weren't just sort of like, okay, a little bit of a stutter step kind of thing. These were really quite significant smackbacks in that, particularly this last one here. If you look at the sort of distance that this has sort of come down, we've gone from 1810 down to 1770. That's a $40 pushback from the highs. That's not chump change. That's some pretty heavy sort of selling pressure. So you got to respect the fact that, you know, whoever's pushing this is saying, look, no, not right now. We're not putting it over 1800. People will try, but you know what? Nobody wants to be stuck buying their long positions at around 1800, or, you know, even up to 1810 or so, while it's still being smacked down. So you're going to get this double effect of that, where people are going to be pulling their long positions, their long entries and that. They're not going, so you've lost the buying power here. Plus you've got also whoever's sort of selling this and pushing it down, coupled on top of that. So it's not just sort of like they've tried, okay, you've still got buyers, boom, you've still got buyers, boom, you've still got buyers. All of a sudden now you're getting a sort of, the buyers are exhausted and the selling pressure's still there. And that's why you're getting this overextended move to the downside. Whereas these other ones, you still had people with hope. They were probably seeing this channel and they were going, look, you know, we are pushing. But once the buying pressure's gone, you've still got the same amount of sellers there. Plus, you may get some people that sort of bought and trying to exit their positions. That's when you're getting these overextended moves to the downside. So at the moment, it's on notice for the fact that it's broken out of this short channel, this short-term upward channel. So I wouldn't necessarily be going, okay, no, buy the dips on these ones. These ones inside the channel, you buy the dips. This one here, you watch to see where this plays out. And really, again, it comes down to your sort of how you want to trade and what your style is. You could be in for a bit of an up-down corrective channel here. We could get a complete sort of wipeout drop down to the downside. I don't think this is the base case. I don't think this is the likely scenario, which is hence why I would be cautious about jumping on sells right now, because I do believe this is more what we're going to be seeing, a bit of a structured move down opposed to just a complete wipeout washout like we saw back here. Like this was just, something was going on and somebody was exiting and getting out hard. So I don't think we're necessarily, just because we've given up this channel here doesn't mean everybody's going to be going for the door. Maybe underneath this 1763 line we might see something similar to this kind of heavy sort of selling pressure, these big long sort of sell-off candles and that. But till that point, this is still a plausible play, and while it is in this corrective, again, it's going to sort of move up, down on the way through, but you still have a valid argument for a move to the top side if we can break this downward corrective channel to the top side. So this is really what I'm looking for to confirm my buys, is through this sort of falling downward channel. And if we can get underneath this 1763, I'm not going to buy that first drop. I'm going to wait to see if we do have a little bit of a stop hunt, because we might get sort of, because I mean, this is a very obvious place for people to be putting their stops. So if you sort of buy that first drop, that's fine. You may capture some of that move and get that quick drop off. But again, you may see something like this, and it may just sort of fly straight back up. And you don't want to be caught in something like this, because all the people that were like, yeah, look, I'm going to buy this, all these people, all through here, anybody that had bought through this here, they all got stopped out. Or they had to take if they didn't take profit, that is, of course. But if they're planning for this big, I'm going to hold this all the way down to 1400 or 1500 or whatever some people are predicting, they all got stopped out. Whether they put it to even, whether they put it above the highs, every single one of them. If you see, and this is what I say, that the gold loves these little stop outs, because look at the highs here. Anybody that had got short on any of these moves, anywhere down here, they all got stopped out if they'd sort of just put it to even, which is fair enough, because I mean that's 1830 to 1680. So, it's a $150 move, and every single one of them, if they hadn't taken profit, got stopped out if they put it to even. So, these are the things, this is the kind of stuff that gold does. So, they're the two lines for me. Under 1763, be looking for shorts on a confirmation of a candle closing underneath there. We'll look to get short on these positions and that. And then once you sort of short on these, then you can look down at a retest of this 1720 zone. So that's a pretty nice little drop off there if you can sort of catch a $40 move to the downside there. But if I am looking for the top side, it's through this corrective channel here. But that's it from me for the week, guys. So just a bit of a recap on the price action we've seen this week in gold. Obviously just a little bit of a base case scenario for the bulls and for the bears. But like I always sort of say, I'm just going to wait to see what the price action dictates, and I'm going to trade what the chart tells me. I'm not jumping necessarily into either camp at this moment. But I'll keep an eye on the news flow, because I think definitely we're going to see some good sentiment shifting bits of news data and that coming out this week. And hopefully we can get a bit more of a clearer picture about where gold prices are moving over the next couple of weeks. Cool. Good luck with the trading this week, guys.